Trying to predict the future is a discouraging and hazardous occupation. Many of the things we take for granted will one day pass away completely. We may have diseases,
Are you ready?
28 years later, we begin on Holy Island, also known as Lindisfarne, a small fortress off the coast of Northumberland that has become humanity's last beacon of hope. At first glance, it's everything you'd want in a post-apocalyptic sanctuary. Stone walls stretch toward the sea. Gardens bloom with fresh vegetables. Children laugh and play in courtyards that should have been graveyards long ago. Life, somehow impossibly, has found a way. But beneath this idyllic surface lurks a truth that will shake you to your core. Enter Jamie, the island's greatest hunter and most skilled killer of the infected. His bow is an extension of his soul, his arrows always finding their mark. Today, he's preparing his teenage son Spike for the most important moment of the boy's life, his first hunt. Spike is everything his father once was before the world ended. Where Jamie has been hardened into human steel by years of violence, Spike still carries traces of innocence. He's nervous about what's coming, uncertain if he can take a life, even the life of something that's no longer human. But on Holy Island, there are no exceptions. Boys become men by proving they can kill. As father and son venture across the causeway that connects their island fortress to the mainland, they're participating in a ritual as old as their community itself. Every young man must face the monsters that destroyed the world and prove he has what it takes to protect what's left. But something has changed in the 28 years since the outbreak. These aren't the same mindless, rage-fueled creatures that tore through London in 2002. The infected have evolved. They move with purpose now. They seem to remember things. And worst of all, they're organizing. Jamie and Spike track their prey through forests that have reclaimed entire cities. When they finally corner their target, a lone infected wandering through the ruins of what was once a village, everything goes catastrophically wrong. The infected doesn't attack alone. It calls to others. And suddenly, Jamie and Spike aren't the hunters anymore. They're the hunted. In the chaos that follows, Jamie is forced to make an impossible choice. To save his son, he must abandon everything he's built on Holy Island. He must venture deeper into the mainland than any survivor has gone in years. And what he discovers there will change everything he thought he knew about the virus, about survival, and about what humanity has become. The mainland isn't empty. It's not even mostly dead. Instead, it's home to communities of survivors who have found their own twisted ways to rebuild. And the most powerful of these communities is ruled by a man who calls himself Sir Jimmy Crystal. Crystal has built his empire in the ruins of what was once a grand English estate. His followers worship him like a god, hanging on his every word, willing to die for his vision of the future. But Crystal's community has a secret that makes the infected look merciful by comparison. They don't just survive alongside the monsters, they use them. Crystal has learned to control the infected, to weaponize them, to turn the virus into a tool of absolute power. In massive underground chambers beneath his estate, rows of infected hang in chains, kept barely alive, their rage harvested and directed at his enemies. It's biological warfare perfected, and Crystal wields it like a weapon of mass destruction. But that's not the worst part, because as Jamie delves deeper into Crystal's domain, searching desperately for a way to save his son and return to Holy Island, he discovers that some of the infected in Crystal's collection aren't infected at all. They're survivors who have been broken, tortured, and psychologically shattered until they're indistinguishable from the monsters they once fought. Crystal doesn't just control the infected. he creates them, not through the virus, but through something far more insidious: the systematic destruction of the human soul. Meanwhile, back on Holy Island, Jamie's absence has consequences. His wife begins to unravel under the pressure of not knowing if her husband and son are alive or dead. The community that seemed so perfect starts to show its cracks. Old rivalries resurface. Resources become scarce. And without Jamie's leadership, the island's defenses begin to crumble. Enter a mysterious stranger who washes ashore with news from the outside world. She claims to know where Jamie has gone. She speaks of other communities, other ways of living, other possibilities for humanity's future. But she also brings warnings about Crystal's growing power and his plans for expansion. Because Crystal isn't content to rule just his estate. He has a vision that encompasses all of Britain. He's building an army of infected and broken survivors, and he's preparing to spread his twisted gospel across every remaining community on the island. The film's most haunting sequence takes place in what Crystal calls the Bone Temple, a macabre cathedral constructed from the skeletons of the infected and the bones of survivors who dared to oppose him. Here, in this monument to death and domination, Crystal reveals his ultimate plan to Jamie. He's not just controlling existing infected. He's breeding new strains, creating more powerful variants, building biological weapons that will make the original rage virus look like a common cold. And Jamie realizes with growing horror that his own community, his own family, his own son, they're all just resources to be harvested in Crystal's grand design. Holy Island was never a sanctuary. It was a farm, a place to breed healthy survivors who could be converted into followers, subjects for experimentation, or raw material for Crystal's infected army. The climax is a masterpiece of moral complexity and visceral action. Jamie faces an impossible choice: save his son and allow Crystal's empire to expand, consuming every remaining pocket of humanity, or sacrifice everything he loves to stop a monster who makes the infected look like innocent children. But Danny Boyle doesn't give us easy answers or clear heroes, because as the final act unfolds in a symphony of violence and revelation, we realize that every character has been infected, not by the virus, but by something worse: the infection of survival itself. The virus that turns good people into killers, heroes into monsters, and love into a weapon to be wielded against the innocent. Jamie makes his choice. The cost is higher than anyone could imagine. Crystal's empire burns, but the flames consume more than just buildings and infected. They consume illusions, relationships, and any remaining faith in humanity's capacity for goodness. In the film's final moments, we see Spike, no longer a boy, no longer innocent, standing alone among the ashes. He picks up his father's bow, tests the string, and looks toward the horizon where other communities wait. Other threats are growing, and other forms of the infection are evolving. The virus may have started with rage, but it's evolved into something far more dangerous: the complete corruption of everything that makes us human. And that's the true horror of 28 years later. Not the monsters outside the walls, but the monsters we become to keep them out. Thanks for watching till the end. Your support keeps us going and helps us bring more awesome stories to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and stay tuned for the next movie on Addict Recap.